Beth, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. We recently had the Women in Tech panel conversation, and I really, really wanted to continue that dialogue with you. So if you'd like, would you like to give us a brief introduction of your background?
Sure. My name is Beth O'Rorke. I am currently a consultant looking at transformation initiatives in the healthcare and retail space. Prior to that, I was 5 years at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts as the CIO. And before that, I was in 12 years of retail in various divisional type CIO roles and senior level executive roles. And take it one step further, before that, 8 years in insurance. So 3 different industries in technology and enjoying the journey.
Girl, that's great. That's impressive. Thank you for joining me. One thing that I've noticed, so I've been in IT for well over 24 years at this point in time. Started at a workbench putting together PCs. And one thing that I remember and continue to see is that I'm often the only female, either at the conference room table or nowadays on the conference bridge. And I think that as a whole, the statistics show that there's been a decrease of over 10% in the past few years of females joining any of the STEM technology career paths. And I just think that that's shocking and kind of sad to see, given where we are in the world. I'm not sure. Are you surprised by those numbers? Are you surprised to see that continued downward trend?
Yeah, the downward trend is surprising to me. I knew we were trying to climb up the trend over time. And then recently when I heard about, and COVID, I think, brought everything to life too, because there's so many more people dropping out, unfortunately, of the workforce because of the work-life integration that they have to kind of balance. But yeah, that has surprised me. I came in not through the engineering ranks, but through the systems analyst, project management, program management. So in those kind of disciplines, they are more balanced, I think. And so I didn't see as much, except for when I was running more the engineering development side, more of the teams that are grooming up, particularly with the new technology. And I think the challenge for females in that is there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot in the engineering schools, and that's a concern. For sure, because we're 50% of the population, I believe, or more.
Yeah, and even if you look at the investments, like angel investors and startup firms get a large percentage of that available opportunity money goes to male funded startup organizations. Mm-hmm. So as a whole, it is pretty scary, and I think you bring up a very valid point that COVID hit, I think the female population particularly hard. We're all still doing our jobs, but, I know I have a 15-year-old daughter who I get text messages saying pancake because she still wants breakfast.
Yeah.
So I think we're all balancing a little bit more. I don't know if you had the chance to watch that recent TEDx by Gabriella Schuster at Microsoft.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Her talk in general was very inspiring and engaging, and really made me think about intentional leadership and how I need to play a broader role. And I've played some in the past, but I think there's more that I can do, particularly in the framework that she lays out.
Yeah, and I it resonated with me, not only just to the examples that she gave about, just having to always constantly reprove ourselves when we're often the females in the room, but being able to break it down into really tangible little pieces of actions that we can take to help support younger generations in coming into this field, and driving that gender equity.
Right.
So she talks about being an ally, being a leader, and being an agent of change. And that's powerful. How do you think, over the course of the past, your career, you've been able to really help to drive those 3 areas, be that agent of change, show be that ally to younger generations.
Yeah, I think over time, it depends on where you are in your path in your career, but I think taking the time and doing some of the things that we'll talk about, the mentoring, participating in networking, and whether it's women only or general topics that you want to get into, and engaging with team members. I always think about it's not about only one chair at the table for a female, even though there's only one there. It's more chairs at the table. So how do you bring up each other? How do you partner with each other, and not feel that it's, oh, there's only one, so it's for me, right? And kind of box someone out. So
Yeah.
how do you be more engaging that way in a relationship and bringing other women to the table? I remember there was in retail, there was an executive meeting every month and there wasn't enough seats at the table. And I remember like telling my admin going, just make sure I'm there early, because I need a seat at the table. One, you're in technology, and that's kind of sometimes second thought, not these days, but it was in the past. But more important that you're a female and you had to be at the table. You had to make sure you had your room. So that was, so how do, when you're sitting at the table and maybe you see another colleague not, how do you make space and say, come on up? Just a visual there for you.
I love that. That's a great visual.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, how do we get, our male counterparts to make sure that there is a seat at the table as well, right? How to make them drive to be an ally for, for that equity for the female gender at that table.
Right. And I have several bosses that were guys, and I've one particular boss is the one who reached out and said, hey, I think you can do this job. And I was like, I think that's a big job. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. And he's like, I want you to do it. And I actually worked with my peers to shape the job to make sure they were very helpful, and they were honestly both female too, and said, let's make sure the job's what you can do, and try to help me through that. And that was a great experience and surprising, that, someone reached out and said, you can do this.
I love that.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's great. So I think actually that's a great segue into connecting. That sounds like a connection that you were able to, to keep from within your network. And I think that's a big thing for younger generations to hold on to, is find a network, find people that you can connect with and lean on, and broach, difficult conversations with even, and, understand more about what it's like to become a female in the technology space. So do you have any particular networks or networking groups that you work with that you would recommend people look at to join to get a little bit more immersed within the community?
Yeah, I think depending on what they're looking for. So when I think of an individual development plan for yourself, I think of it in the technical space, the business space, the management leadership space. And so depending on what you want to really focus on, because you can't focus on everything every year, but usually when you're first starting out your career, the technical, especially in the technical area, usually you want to focus on, like, how do I participate in hackathons, or how do I participate in a community of a certain technology? And it could be not just women, but it could be co-ed, and just get involved that way. And you would meet other women there potentially, or just other people that you could connect with. So I think really looking at your career trajectory, and in middle management, it's more about probably management leadership. And the Society of Information Management, SIM, has a nationwide program that I've belonged to, and they also have a women's group inside that. And that is about management and leadership. And I speak at the Regional Leadership Forum, which is a program that they have for up and coming leaders. and I get the opportunity to talk with people about networking in my career path and what went well and what didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
that's the second time I've heard of SIM today. Actually, it's the second
Oh,
time it's
okay.
gotten
Yeah.
brought up. It sounds amazing. It sounds like a great networking and connection opportunity.
Yeah, it's been really good for me. And then as now in more of a senior seat, I'm in the CIO network, and there's some programs and groups that work in there. And then I actually, for myself, I'm like, okay, I got the leadership in the technical team at my peer level. Now I want to also connect with the community, and so I joined the Boston Club, which is female executives in the Boston area that we're going to network, and they have subgroups as well. But it's a good way to get to know your community as well in this particular situation.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize until recently. So I'm in a very small town between Buffalo and Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we actually have a small women in business group here in my
Yeah.
little town. So
Yeah.
it really is all about trying to reach out and find, something within your community and within your reach, I think. So it's great.
Great. Great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Um, and the other thing I think that we need to hopefully strive change in is hiring practices. So the way we outreach to our
Yeah.
candidates, and it's not necessarily who but where the best candidate fit is. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I worked with HR a lot. I think if you don't get the right candidate pool, you're not going to pick the right candidate.
Yep.
So I think the HR teams that I've been working with definitely have broadened their perspective of how they even cultivate those relationships before an opening is even available. And so going to those different kind of diverse groups and making sure that they have a pipeline in. And I was very adamant in many cases that I wanted a diverse candidate. And for me, it was both nationality or gender, because it's always usually, the same makeup in team members. So having those pipelines and really working with HR and being clear that you need to have the broader net, if you will, of recruitment to bring them in. And then also looking internally. I do believe that bringing people up internally is very important too, and grooming them. And how do you give them stretch assignments and get them ready for the next role, and not overlook them? So both kind of candidate pools, you have to really work.
Yeah. And the other thing I've been thinking a lot about, especially in trying to drive interest within the technology space
Yeah.
for younger generations, is simply offering internships. There's a
Yeah.
lot of, I think, value of bringing in that gender equity through internships to give them the experience, let them have the opportunity to mentor with probably people who have been in the field for a little bit, and help them make great career decisions and find something that is a good match. And I think for organizations too, there's a long-term benefit to that. A lot of those
Yeah.
internships can turn into great tenured employees.
Yeah, that loyalty does come back to you, and I think internships are tough when you don't have a lot of entry level roles.
Yep.
So how do you create enough of an experience so that maybe they're rotated a bit through certain
Yep.
departments, but then gain that, and for the most part, they're so eager and they're so well equipped to learn that they can pick up anything.
Yeah.
You just got to give them a chance. We actually also did apprenticeships, so working with different companies that would invest in their certain skills so that then they can work for you as a company. So those were not just like more maybe people that didn't go to college. And because now the question is do you go to college or do you go get these certifications from these different programs?
Yep.
It's a really interesting time, because you can work your way up in a technical aspect without necessarily a four-year degree. There's pros and cons to that. I don't know what the right answer is, but it goes to the person who who wants to make their career a certain path.
Actually, that's a really good point. And then because there are so many certification paths that are also available,
Yeah.
how do you know where to go, until you can have that conversation and, perspective from somebody who has been in the field for a little while.
Right. In this day and age, these tools are coming and going. So I think you're learning, constantly learning, which we all know in technology you have to do that. But these tools, you're in 1 year and that's out and you're into another thing. It's not like you're flipping out an ERP. So, but knowing AWS or knowing Azure, there's a lot. And Google, you're going to float in between a lot of those. So.
Yeah.
It's important to obviously continue to learn and have that path and curriculum in your department.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't even think about apprenticeship. You're spot on. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think we're kind of blending into mentorship. Once you've got an intern, even being able to be afforded a mentor to ask questions of, and I'll tell a story of when I was doing my first consulting position. I walked into the room, and the SVP who was in charge, when she stood up there, I was like, whoa, I want to be like her when I grow up. Like, you just knew.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
whoa, where did that come from?
yeah.
And I think mentorship can take on many different, capacities as well. Tell me a little bit about your experience with mentoring, either, being a mentor or being a mentee.
Yeah, so personally, I think I only asked for one formal mentor in my career, and it was because she was coming out of, this was in a retail environment, she was coming out of a retail environment where basically all the senior leaders were men. And I said, well, she really got in the flow of that, and I was going in a senior role for technology. I'm like, how do I operate? How do they take in information? And it was probably more so not necessarily, and if she was a female, it wasn't necessarily a gender only. It was also at that executive level. How do they want to take in information, and how do I do presentations? And so she was a really good help. But then informally, I had plenty of mentors. I think that's you can, they talk about a board of mentors, right? You can learn from so many different people, different aspects. So I took advantage of that, and many of my bosses were mentors. For me being able to provide mentorship, I try to be open to all, my whole team, and whoever asks, I'll work with them. I look for them to kind of lead the conversation and help me understand where they want to go. And you have to balance not giving too much advice and guidance, but more questions and more thought-provoking for them to figure out where do they want to go. Even I continue on mentoring a few folks from my past days at both Blue Cross and Staples. And it's actually a friendship now, right? So it's more of, I'm learning from them just as much. They're taking me through their journeys, and if they can get a nugget or two from my journey to share, and that they can learn from it or learn what not to do, that's always good. And I also reverse mentors. I think when the iPhone came out, or just the smartphone came out, I had a BlackBerry, and I had, a good friend of mine's son would come into the office, and he's like, "Hey, I jailbroke this." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You got to come visit me more often, because I don't know what you're talking about." And now with all these tools, I think you have to have some reverse mentorship, because I can't keep up with everything, and your team can provide that for you.
Yeah. I love that reverse mentorship.
Yeah, no, it's been actually helpful.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's just it. I think that inherently the mentor gets probably just as much out of the relationship as the mentee. It's just that two-way, being able to provide guidance, to someone who's looking for it and genuinely wants it.
Yeah, yeah, it's been great, because you learn both ways, and again, if I'm all for, I speak on panels, or I speak on colleges actually, and if they can get a nugget or two out of my experience, that's even better. That's something to help them with.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it's just such an important part of helping, and it does. And sometimes it doesn't even start with the formal request, right? It's just what are your ideas, and have it grow from there.
Right. Yeah. For the most part, some ask for more formal, but for the most part, it's just like, hey, do you mind if I check in every once in a while? I'm like, check in, get on my calendar.
I love that. I love that. I think when you mentor someone and help guide them, there's also a sense of empowerment that comes with that. So, I think one of the other aspects of, you know, driving the message and looking for broader gender equity is empowerment, making sure that you feel empowered yourself to make decisions, to feel like you're in an area of fostering growth. What are your thoughts on empowerment?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important from an overall aspect. As you get to pick your boss once when you join a company, and then you don't know who you're going to have for how long. And so as you need to make sure that you are stepping up and looking for opportunities and being able to raise your hand if you have concerns or challenges. And on the flip side, as a leader, you have to, what I try to do is be more of a situational leader where, depending on where they need me, do they need me standing beside them, behind them, or in front of them? Because I'll go where they need me to go, and try to work a flat organization and let them run. But step in if something's going on that is either over their head or they need that partner right there because of seniority in the room or whatever is going on. There's a lot of dynamics in companies, but allowing folks to share their ideas, run with their ideas, come back and be like, ooh, that didn't go so well. Okay, what did we learn from it? And kind of go from there. So really open dialogue, honest kind of dialogue is always important to me, and allowing them to learn and run with whatever is on the plate, because there's enough going on. Certainly if you play the hierarchical, decision making, takes forever. And you want people to move. And I think now in the digital age, flattening the organization, empowering the teams to move, people have to be comfortable with that, and somehow getting the team comfortable with that is an important exercise.
Yeah, I see a lot of times where, it looks as though, females come into a room and don't feel quite as empowered as maybe some of our other counterparts.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
That's a tough one. I think culture of a company and even culture of the team is something that as a leader you need to take a pulse on. I think it's important for, sometimes there's clashes and you don't realize it until you go, wait a minute, all right, that person's not talking, or what's the dynamics here? And I think women do need to find their voice and be more confident that they have something to say and they're not just saying it to say it, and that it's meaningful. So somehow you got to get comfortable with inserting yourself at the right time in a balanced way, right? So that you're not always that person, but you're there for a reason, and they want you to hear your voice. So you got to take advantage of that. But it is tough to do, but you got to practice, I think, and just do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, that really is all of the, under that Become framework, are those key pieces, connecting, outreach, mentorship, empowerment, being able to help even just a little bit in one of those areas, becoming a mentor, or, even becoming a mentee yourself if there's somebody that you're still looking up to that can help broaden the topic, and driving that empowerment. One thing I'd be curious to hear your response to is, if you could go back and look at your 20-year-old self and provide advice and guidance, what would that be?
Yeah, there's probably a couple things. Certainly believe in yourself. I think confidence and knowing that you'll do okay and not hesitating. I think having your confidence is important. I think another one is continue to take risks, especially when you're young. Taking risks. A job is not forever, you know, so you can, oh, I want to try that. Try it out. Raise your hand for those tough assignments. You know, if someone taps you on the shoulder, say yes to that opportunity and take those risks. And then finally, I would say work is a big part of your life, and you get on the gerbil wheel of work and you keep on going. Step off once in a while, take a breath, and enjoy life, because work can consume you. And if you don't have that kind of balance, you're gonna miss a big part of your life. So that's something. And then I would say move me up another 10 years. So if I was in my 30s, 2 points of view just to share. I think having a great significant other, partner, spouse, like my husband, you can't get to the roles that I've gotten to without that partnership. We have a son who's 13, and it's been a joint partnership to raise him. And if I can't do it because I got to travel or I got to go somewhere or be on a meeting, he's right there. And having that partnership, it's work-life integration and having that kind of go-to person, you need it, because doing it alone is quite hard. And I think that's the big reason why I think women have one of the biggest challenges in the workforce is keeping that balance. But lean in a little on your partner.
Yeah, I empathize and completely will second that.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same. I feel the pain on that one. You know, we
Yeah.
were traveling 200 nights a year, which isn't possible unless you have a great significant other at home helping to support the family life. But also now trending back to more being at home, have, you know, that work life division isn't necessarily so easy anymore because
Right.
we're just always home.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
you know, I think
I
great
agree.
points, driving home, work-life balance, hop off that work train once in a while.
Yeah. Just
And
enjoy
then,
it. Yeah.
yeah, and plus, you know what, if you're having fun, that's going to spill over to your performance in the workplace
Yeah.
as well.
True too.
Yeah, especially in tech. You know, there's a lot
Yeah.
of times when you're trying to come up with something new that if you just have a little bit of fun with it, you're probably going to solution something, you know, quicker and you know, maybe have a laugh or two along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on with me today and talking about these important topics.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's critical today than ever before to make sure that we keep bringing the workforce up and you know, from a women's standpoint, and getting our seat at the table, and kind of we're having the opportunity to be in great roles. So I've had a lot of luck in my lifetime and look forward to more. And we need to help others do the same.
Yeah, I feel the same. Well, I hope I'll be able to have you on another discussion. I'd love to keep
Sure.
the conversation moving and
Sounds great.
keep it open. So,
Thank you.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Beth. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.